There's no time in the day, you're exhausted after work, and so how the heck are you going to fit in the mental space to work on what you really want? Well, the reality is you're only 3 steps away from creating your dream life, and step 1 is to actually stop trying to chase your dream in the first place. While starting with our dream or goal is what the majority of finance and business gurus focus on, decades of research in cognitive science have shown that having a dream or goal isn't the factor that has helped countless people transition out of their 9 to 5. So what is that hidden factor? Well, back when I was running a standardized test prep school, it was great money, but there was internal stress that I, like you, was feeling every single day. I loved teaching, but I didn't love all the other parts of the business. At that time, a friend of mine suggested I read a classic book in personal development called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and that book reminded me of certain established facts I had actually published research on a decade earlier. Decades of research have demonstrated these 2 life-changing principles. Number 1, we hold an image of our ideal self in our mind, whether we're aware of it or not. And number 2, any actions we take that conflict with that image of ourselves will cause us internal stress, and also to unconsciously sabotage our own goal. So instead of starting with our why, our dream, or our goal, let's try the following exercise to start to bring clarity to how we define ourselves, what our core values are, and what we stand for, and then our next steps in terms of dreams, goals, and planning will become crystal clear, and we'll take those steps together. The famous psychologist Abraham Maslow came up with a model that has since been adapted by psychologist Chloe Medanis as the 6 basic human needs. These are certainty, we can think of this as stability or predictability in life, variety, essentially different experiences, significance, a feeling that our life has meaning or purpose, love and connection, hopefully self-explanatory, growth, usually in terms of learning, personal development, or spirituality, and finally contribution, the idea that we can offer lasting value to other people in some way. Let's start off by identifying our top 2 values, then get ready to take some notes, because now that we're clear on these, we're going to use these in step 2, which is stop focusing on creating a plan. Statistically speaking, the chances of us designing a plan and having all those details fall into place is extremely low. So low, in fact, our focus shouldn't be on designing the perfect plan at all. Instead, let's understand something. Our brain filters out at least 95% of all the data it receives based on what it considers relevant or irrelevant. For example, focus on how much we want a specific red car and we'll start to see that red car everywhere. You see, we can partially determine that remaining 5% of our perception, and here's why that's powerful. The probability of finding $1 million business opportunity we'll succeed at is statistically very low. However, when we choose to focus on finding such opportunities, we're engaging in what is called sample size limitation. And that's some clarification for all you stats nerds out there. By limiting the scope of focus, we literally increase the probability of finding an opportunity. So then how people end up transitioning into their dream life isn't necessarily by planning it, statistically speaking. Instead, how most people end up transitioning is by fine-tuning their brains using the method I discussed before, and therefore noticing what I call pivotal moments. These are moments that happen in our lives when something suddenly happens, often unexpectedly, that presents an opportunity we can grab onto.
Yeah, I had already kind of realized that I wasn't going to be a franchisee. And I think I'd started, like, set up Denali Consulting as an entity and was just starting to probably work on the business plan. That day I was seeing one of my favorite people, someone I really emulate and I consider one of my biggest mentors. And, he had some great advice as well. So yeah, there's several pivotal moments that you just grab them and you're able to take more advantage of them and identify them quicker and just be more responsive the more you develop yourself.
It was when you had these like long stretches of nothingness where you're just like hanging out with socially, or like you have no goals in mind and you're just doing whatever you're doing. That's when you're very open. The universe is open to you. And once that happens, all of a sudden you feel this amazing feeling that is comparable to drive, but it's not drive. It's more like, wait a minute, I think I know what makes me happy. I think I know myself. I think I'm authentic to myself.
My pivotal moment was in Cabo when I won President's Club and I realized I wasn't happy. That's when I started looking for other things. Didn't know what it was or what it would be. And then I just decided to follow my heart on what that would mean for me. And it just kind of led me to an investor meeting in Puerto Rico where I ran into a buddy of mine from Maryland that retired in Puerto Rico. He's like in his mid-30s, big time cannabis cultivator from University of Maryland. And we just started talking about what we could do on that island.
Chances are similar pivotal moments are happening in your life regularly, but you're just not noticing them because your brain is filtering them out. The third and final step we'll take together is stop trying to succeed. Success is a process, not a destination. In order to get started, we need to focus instead on iteration. The 19th century philosopher John Stuart Mill pointed out that there are different degrees of happiness, but that if we aren't willing to have a variety of experiences, including bad or painful ones, we are much more likely to miss out on the greatest forms of happiness, simply because we have no way to compare. A person who eats boiled vegetables every day, for example, might think this tastes pretty good, but it's simply because they've never tried homemade Italian, Indian, or Chinese cuisine. Delicious. So we can envision and dream about our ideal outcome all day, but what if that outcome isn't actually in line with our core values and identity? And how would we know anyway? Once we've identified our top 2 human needs from step 1 and started to rewire our brain to notice pivotal moments in step 2, have the courage to grab onto one of those opportunities you notice that on its face aligns with those human needs. Now, I'm not saying to be reckless or not analyze your decisions. Instead, I'm just telling you the truth that you literally can't know what you want until you try new things. We won't know it by just looking at the theory or the numbers. We have to be willing to experience it, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs. Pick a path that you intuitively feel is right and try it with full commitment. Don't half-ass it. Commit to the possibility of failure and understand that even if you do fail, it helps you develop transferable skills you can use on your next iteration.
So it was
That's
only
fantastic.
through trial and error and working with people that I was able to, solidify really how I was going to love spending my days. So we learn a lot more from losing than we do from winning, right? Just like in, youth sports, that's said often, and it's so true. And, I feel like having a business and being an entrepreneur is the ultimate development tool, both personal and professional,
It is.
right? When you really put yourself
It
out
is.
there. And, you make me think of what a lot of, big names say, right? Gino Wickman calls it taking the leap, and John Lee Dumas calls it the baby effect.
Right.
And other people call it, burning, you have to burn the boats, right? So you do
Exactly.
have to really take the risk. Even if you've got all the skills, all the talent, all the motivation, there's also like this other little ingredient. There's so many ingredients to being successful, but one of them is really having this little bit of healthy pressure and going for it.
I'm always experimenting. Every single day is different. Every single hour, every single minute, it's a different new choice that I'm making. I try not to repeat certain mistakes, and I try to learn from my failures. We're talking about trial and error, like going through this long list of like job options and etc. That trial and error, was it worth it? Was that what brought you here today? That's part of it.
Mhm.
That's really definitely part of it. Learning from what I didn't like was definitely something that drove me to like go another realm or like another path. However, the biggest thing I would focus on in terms of like doing what you love to do is being true to yourself.
Yeah.
Every so often I check in with myself and I say, does this fit or align with my fundamental values?
Yeah.
Am I being authentic with myself? Am I being authentic in how I project or what I'm framing to other people?
And I'm still going through iterations, and I'm still going
Yeah.
to learn. And yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and along with that question, what skills did you pick up along the way from those iterations that helped you become successful with what you're doing now?
the biggest thing I think I found over the last 6 months was the ability to have confidence in what I'm doing. It's because there was a
Wow.
big imposter syndrome. It was a big thing of, do I belong in this room?
Interesting.
Do I belong in this conversation? The things that I'm saying, do I truly believe in this? Right. And once the answer was yes, you absolutely believe in this. And not just to say it, but to actually believe in it, things changed dramatically. I mean, I've been on phone calls talking about $50 million deals, and I'm flying to California to talk about a $24 million acquisition. Those are unfathomable a year ago, like literally. But because I got that belief in what I'm doing, I have a clear vision, and I just know that I have the wherewithal to make everything succeed. it's just a confidence that I found along the way.
At the end of the day, other people's experiences about what it took for them to transition out of their 9-to-5 and into their dream life are subjective. Nobody can tell us that their exact process will work for us, but what we've done here is to take a scientific approach and look at all the facts of statistics and human behavior, and what we find is you really can do this. The last ingredient in this formula is you have to surround yourself with the right people. If you want to continue this journey with me and learn what it takes to surround yourself with the right people to succeed, then be sure to watch this next video.